So now we are going to deal with the fifth question. This is the 34th verse of third chapter, where the king is asking the question, what is the nature of the absolute reality? And in response to this question, the fifth sage, Pippalayana, he answers, and he says that the absolute reality is the causeless cause of preservation, creation and dissolution of the universe. Now, in Vedantic tradition, our understanding or our concept of the absolute reality or God, in other words, very much depends upon our own spiritual evolution. We may remember the Bible says God created man in his own image. But it is also true that man or human being creates God in his own or her own image. Because our understanding or our concept of God or absolute reality very much depends upon our own spiritual evolution. When we are discussing the characteristics of the highest devotee, we already saw that the highest devotee is one who sees the presence of God in all beings and who experiences the presence of the whole creation in God. Sarva bhudeshya pasyet bhagavad bhavam atmanaha bhudani bhagavadi atmani esha bhagavadottamaha. So, in direct proportion to our own spiritual evolution, our understanding of God also evolves. That's the idea behind. But according to the highest devotional philosophy and also Vedanta philosophy, God is the immanent principle residing in all living beings, and it is also the omnipresent or pervading reality, and also it is a transcendental reality. So in the Gita you find this on many occasions. Ishvara sarvabhudanam hrideshi arjuna tishthavi brahmayan sarvabhudani yantra rudhanimaya. In the 18th chapter, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, God is the immanent reality in all living beings. Sarvabhudanam hridaye means Ishvara sarvabhudanam. Hrideshu means hridaya deseshu. Hridi means within our inner hearts. God is the residing principle. So, in the 35th verse, Pippalayana says, Sthiti udbhava pralaya hetuhu ahetuhu. That's the idea behind. So, God is Sthiti udbhava pralaya hetu. Sthiti means preservation, and udbhava means creation or projection, and pralaya means dissolution. So, God is the fundamental cause of creation. From God, the universe emerges. And it is a God principle that sustains, that preserves the universe. And it is also the point of dissolution. So, it is the cause, but that God himself is not the effect of any other cause. Because generally, when you say something is the cause of something else, we have also to say that cause is the effect of something else, some other cause. So there is the endless chain of cause-effect succession. But there is one difference. God or Brahman is itself not the effect of any other cause. It is the cause of everything. So sthiti udbhava pralaya hetu. Yad jagra yad swapna jagra sushuptishu sad bhahischa. Dehendriya sukridani charanti yena sanjivitani tat avehi param narendra. So Pippalaina says, this reality is the causeless cause of creation, that is projection, preservation and dissolution of the universe. And again it is said that Swapna Jagra Sushuptishu. Now in Mandukya Upanishad and also in Mandukya Kariga, which is a commentary on Mandukya Upanishad in verse, there is a detailed analysis of the absolute reality on the basis of our totality of our experience in waking, in dream and deep sleep states. Now one important criterion of the absolute reality is that it should remain the same in all the three states of our experience. In waking state, in dream state and deep sleep state. In waking state we are experiencing the external world, external objects. How do we experience? We experience with the mind and external senses. When you see an object in waking state, our mind and the darshanendriya, the sense of vision, are involved. And when we cognize an object through noise, we hear it. And hearing takes place when Sravanendriya, the sense of hearing, and mind come together. So mind is a common factor. So when mind associates itself with any of the five jnanendriyas, cognition takes place. This is what happens in waking state. In waking state, there is duality and plurality and diversity of objects. The witness, the perceiver, the experiencer, the drashta, the knower is one. But the known, the seen, the experienced objects are diverse. Now, this experiencer is called Vishwa, and the totality of experienced objects together are called Virat in waking state. In dream state, what happens? The same witness, the same subject, the same experiencer experiences diversity of objects in dream, but external senses are not directly involved. They are involved, but in a subtle sense. All the impressions and tendencies, memories that we have gathered in waking state are projected and they come to the surface in dream state. But everything takes place at mental level. See, in dream also you may be walking through the streets of Chicago. There may be sun blazing overhead. You are walking in the garden or in the streets. You can see objects. But your eyes are closed, you are sleeping in a dark room. And the room is very small, but you may see a huge truck or an elephant or an aircraft in dream. So where does this aircraft exist? In waking state, it is there right in front of us. A truck is in front of us because we are standing in the middle of the street, maybe in a garden or somewhere else. It's a huge place which can contain a truck. But in dream, you are dreaming, you are sleeping in a dark room, in a small room, your eyes are closed, it's pitch dark everywhere. Still you see and you hear the voice, your eyes are closed. So, Where do these objects exist? They exist in our mind. You can never have a dream experience which is completely different, unrelated to your waking state experiences. Dream experiences are not exact duplication of waking state experiences. No. Because in dream, you can travel from here to San Francisco in split second. But in waking state, it takes 4 hours, 405 hours perhaps. But in dream, it takes only split second. The moment the idea comes, immediately it becomes a matter of experience. So there is difference with regard to time, kala bheda, and there is difference with regard to space, desha bheda. You are sleeping here in Chicago and you are seeing an object in San Francisco, Golden Gate Bridge, which is 2000 miles away. So there is desha bheda is there. And then in waking state, you are seeing things at the gross level, experiencing things at the gross level. In dream, you are experiencing things at the subtle level. The subtlety makes it possible for you to travel any distance within split seconds. So there is kala bheda, desha bheda, and sukshma sthula bheda in dream and waking state experiences. There is distinction difference, but you can never have a dream which is completely divorced, distinct, unrelated to waking state experiences. In waking state, you have seen a bird flying in the sky or plane, and yourself standing on the ground. In dream, you dream you are flying yourself in the sky. So the idea of flying taken from the object, flying object, is associated with yourself. But the idea of flying is gathered in waking states. They are put together irrationally. So there is distinction, but there is also similarity. So in dream state, the witness is Taijasa, and the totality of experiences together may be called Hiranyagarbha. In deep sleep or Sushupti state, you experience blissfulness, but you are not aware of the fact that experiencing rest or restfulness or blissfulness when you experience it. You experience bliss, but you become aware of this experience only when you come out of the Sushupti or deep sleep, when you return to waking state. Till then you are not aware of the feeling of bliss that you enjoy in deep sleep. In deep sleep, the experiencer is called Pragna, and the totality of experiences together are called Ishvara. That's a cause. Now, in deep sleep, there is only agrahanam, means non-comprehension. In dream and waking states, there is not only agrahanam, there is not only non-comprehension, but also its effect, that is anyatha grahanam, of misapprehension. Diversity of objects, plurality of objects are all experienced in dream and waking states. Now here what you find is there is identity or unity or oneness with regard to the experiencer, the drashta, the sakshi, but there is difference with regard to the experienced objects. What you experience in dream are not the same that you experience in waking state, and both are absent in deep sleep. So there is change. Absence also is a change, From presence to absence, it's also change. So there is change, there is difference with regard to drishya or the objects of experience, but there is perfect identity or unity with regard to the subject or the witness of experiences. Drashta is common in all the three states. Drishya are different from each state. That means Drashta is real, experiencer is real, Sakshi is real, the subject is real. Objects are different because objects change from state to state. Now here Pipalayana says, Swapna Jagara Sushuptishu Sat Behischa. This reality, this Atman, this Lord is associated with Swapna, that means dream, waking state, Jagrat and Sushupti states. In all the three states. But at the same time, this association doesn't bring about a total change, a permanent change with regard to the subject. The subject is Sat, Atman, it's called Turiya. It is unrelated, but when it is apparently related or associated with the fact of experiencing in all the three states, it is called Vishwa, Taijasa, Pragna at the Vyashti level, at the individual level, Virat, Hiranyagarbha and Ishvara at the Samashti level, the level of totality. Now, at the same time, in its reality as Turiya, which is not a state, which is beyond, which transcends all the three states, there is no relation or association of anything. See, if you can think of a house with 3 rooms and you move from one room to another room in a building, you don't belong to any of the 3 rooms particularly, because if you belong to any of the 3 rooms, you are confined, you are limited to that particular room. Then you can't be present in the other 2 rooms. If you are present in all the 3 rooms, it means you are independent. You do not particularly attach yourself to any of the 3 states. So in reality, it is unrelated, unassociated with any of the 3 states. At the same time, in the ordinary common sense experience at the Vyavaharika level, it is associated with the waking state, in dream state and deep sleep state. And yena dehendriya asukurdayani samjivitani. Now when this Sakshi, when this Atman, when this reality is residing in all beings, when it acts as the Sakshi or subject in waking state as Vishwa and in dream state as Taijasa, in deep sleep state as Pragna, then it appears to be conditioned by the 3 states. But in reality, it is not conditioned, it is not restricted, not limited by any of these 3 experiences. It is Sakshi. It is Sakshi. Now, Sakshi cannot be participant. If you are witnessing a drama, if you are sitting on a chair, if you are a spectator, you cannot play on the stage. You are only Sakshi, you are only witness. Sakshi means Audasinyatva, Bodhrutva, Sakshi. You should be aware of it, but you should not be involved in it. These are 2. Audasinya means you are not involved. You are a non-participant. At the same time, you are aware of what is going on. This is Sakshitva, means Audasinyatvat, Bodhrutvat, Sakshitva. Sakshi, witness, subject, unrelated to objects. The relationship, if at all it appears, is only relative. At the highest Paramarthika level, you transcend all this. So, this reality is again the same idea which is expressed in the Gita Sloka, Ishvara Sarvabhudanam Hridesi Arjuna Tishtadi Brahmayan Sarvabhudani Yantrarudhani Maya. It's a mechanic who activates a machine. So also this God the Almighty Reality as an inner principle, as Antaryami is activating, is driving this whole machine of universal existence. Ahamatma gudakesha sarvabhudasi sthidaha ahamadishcha madhyamcha bhudanam antaivacha. You can find in this 10th chapter also. Lord Krishna says, he tells Arjuna, Ahamatma gudakesha sarvabhudasi sthidaha, means I am the inner resident, the residing principle, the immanent reality within all living beings in this world. So, to be the absolute reality, that reality should be avasthatraya abadhita. Avasthatraya means three avasthas, three states of human experience: waking, Jagrat state, dream, Swapna state, and deep sleep or Sushupti state. It should not be of a changing nature. So in all these three states, the objects are subject to change, but the subject is ever the participant, the non-participating subject, Sakshi. As the same reality, the same Atmana as Tviriya is experiencing these objects at the gross level in waking state, and the same reality is experiencing all these objects in a subtle level in dream state, and the same reality is present in deep sleep state, in Sushupti state. But aham sukham aswapsam, I had a good sleep, I had bliss, I had restful, I had good rest. You get this experience, this feeling only when you come out of your deep sleep, Sushupti state. Unless the same subject was present in all the three states, you cannot have memory. Everyone remembers the dream. Why? Because the waking experiencer was present in dream also. Otherwise, how do you remember? Again, in deep sleep, of course, you are not aware of anything. All the senses, mind get completely immersed in Mula Avidya. But when you come out of deep sleep, when you return to waking state, then you become aware of your experience of restfulness or bliss, which you experienced in deep sleep. So that means, and this experience is remembered or recollected only in waking state. So memory is the connecting thread, unifying thread. Memory would have been impossible if the same witness existed in all the three states. That's why it is stated, in deep sleep, our senses become completely merged in avidya. Avidya, mula avidya, is ajnana, is present in deep sleep. That's why when we enjoy deep sleep, we are not aware of the fact that we are enjoying deep sleep. So Dvaita or duality is transcended. It transcended, but that takes place because duality is not experienced. It is not conscious transcending of duality. You are not aware of duality because the instruments for perceiving duality or plurality are absent, or they become benumbed in deep sleep state. In Samadhi, on the other hand, we are enjoying bliss, but we are aware of the fact that we are enjoying bliss when we are enjoying bliss. Deep sleep or Sushupti is like this. Suppose you go from here to London. Somebody, for God's sake, never happened. Somebody knocks you down and you are unconscious, put you in a guinea bag. You are not aware of it. Or put you in anesthesia or something, and you are taken to London, 10 hours flight. Immediately you are brought back. 20 hours you are away from here. But so far as you are concerned, you are going to London makes no difference. Because while going to London, you are not aware that you are going to London. So it makes no difference. Sushupti is like that. In Sushupti, we become identified with Atman, but we are not aware of it. But in Samadhi, through sadhana sadushtayam, that is nitya nitya vastu vivekaha, ihamutra phala bhoga viragaha, samadhi sarka sambhati mumukshuttam, through sadhana sadushtaya. I need not go into details, most of you are aware of it. If you are not aware of it, you can ask during interaction, question answer session. Through sadhana sadushtayam, you become fit for experiencing Samadhi. It's like going to the airlines office, getting a ticket, buying a ticket, boarding an aircraft, going to London, doing a business and returning. All work is done with full consciousness. That is like Samadhi. So you are aware of the fact that you went to London. So you know that you went to that place, you did your work and you return. You are aware of it. There is awareness of it even when you enjoy, when you undergo the experience. So this is called Samadhi. Samadhi makes you a different person. It transforms you. It makes you a spiritually evolved person. But Sushupti doesn't do that. Sushupti. One veterinary doctor said that all animals have only Sushupti. They don't have dreams. Because they are not able to accumulate waking state memories in their chittam. So they have only waking state and Sushupti, nothing else. But so animals also have Sushupti. Human beings also have Sushupti. Don't change, no difference. But in Samadhi, you become a different person. But Samadhi you cannot have Samadhi unless you are fit for it. Through sadhana sadushtaya, we must become fit. We must acquire fitness for Samadhi. That's experiencing non-duality with full awareness. That is Samadhi. Experiencing the absence of duality without being aware of it is Sushupti. In Sushupti, you are experiencing only absence of duality. It is not non-duality. Absence of duality is not necessarily non-dualistic in nature. You are not aware of it because all the instruments for experiencing duality are benumbed. So, now the point is this, what Pippalada drives home is this. This reality, Dehendriya Yat Swapna Jagara Sushuptishu. Sat. Sat means it exists. The reality. It exists in waking state, dream state and deep sleep states. So it is avasthatraya abadhita. Object change, drashta or subject never changes. And this reality as the immanent principle, it is what gives life to the senses, the mind, the intellect. So mind or mana is called sankalpa vikalpatmika andakarna vrittihi mana, and buddhi is called nisyatmika andakarna vrittihi buddhi. So buddhi recognizes or cognizes. Mind speculates and undergoes impulses and tendencies. All these take place because this Atman as the immanent principle is residing in all beings. That's why we are able to walk, we are able to see, we are able to witness things. Atman doesn't walk, but without Atman being present in us, we cannot walk. Atman doesn't eat food, but without Atman's presence in us, we cannot eat food. So all these are made active, they are being energized by Atman, by consciousness. Sanjivitani tat avehi. So this is what you should know. That is the instruction by Pippalaya. So these are some of the criteria for deciding whether it is the absolute reality or not. In Vedanta, the absolute reality should be avasthatraya abadhita. It should not be affected by the fluctuations in the three states of experience of waking, dream and deep sleep. Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, Avasthatraya. And it should be Trikala Abadhita. It should not be subject to change of time. It should remain the same in the past, in the present and future. Which means it should be Sadvikara Atita. It should be beyond the 6 changes. 6 changes I already outlined. Jayade, Asti, Vardhade, Viparinamade, Kshiyade, Naside. It should be Sadvikara Atita, Trikala Atita, and Avasthatraya Abadhita. These are. So, this is the explanation by Pipala. Now, again he continues. Brahman is further explained. Naidat manovishadi va uda chakshuratma pranendriyani cha yathanala marchishaswa shabdobi bodha nishedayam atmamulam arthoktamaha yadrite na nishedha siddhi. Etat manaha va uda chakshuhu atma pranendriyani swaha archisha analam yatha navishati. Shabda api. Here Shabda, word Shabda is used, it should be understood as Veda. Shabda here doesn't mean just voice, but Veda, Shabda Pramana or Shabda Pramana means Vedas. Okay, now Shabda api Atma Moolam Arthoktam Bodha Nishedadaya Aha Yadrute Nisheda Siddhi. Now the idea is this. This Atman is Anirvachaniya, Vacha Magochara. It is beyond words, beyond mind. Now, mind cannot understand this. Whatever is objectified by mind or senses or intellect should be relative. Mind can understand relative things. Vak or words can explain, describe or define what belongs to time, space and causation. Chakshuhu, eyes can see empirical things. Atma here means buddhi. Buddhi can cognize. Here one point to be understood is this. You find in Vedic literature, you find mind or buddhi alone can understand this. Such words you find. In those contexts, mind means not the ordinary mind which perceives or cognizes empirical things. Mind which is pure, which is not the mind which is dragged by the 5 senses towards external objects. That's a mind which is turned inward. That's the idea behind. So often in the Vedic literature, you can find this problem. In Veda, in the Upanishads, and to some extent in the Bhagavata Purana also. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahapuranam, Brahma Samhidam. Bhagavata Purana is equated to Veda. Brahma means Veda. So there are many verses in the Bhagavata Purana in which Bhagavata is given the same high status as the Upanishads or Vedas themselves. So in the Vedic literature, sometimes you find the same word is used, but the meaning is different in different context. So sometimes Atma could mean mind, it could mean intellect, it could even mean Indriyas, senses, and sometimes it could mean Antakaranas, Mana, Buddhi, Chitta and Ahankara, and very often it means Jivatma, and in many contexts it could mean Paramatma also. So mind also is sometimes used in that sense, not the ordinary mind which perceives external things, but the higher mind, the purified mind. See, I quoted this morning the Nasadi Sutta, Kriti Pradishya Kavayo Manisha. Manisha here means the high purified intellect, which is the higher intellect. The real Metha means here. So, what Vipralada says is this Atman cannot be, this Brahman cannot be understood, explained or defined either by mind or intellect. It cannot be perceived by any of the five senses of perception like Sravanendriya, Darsanendriya, Turgindriya or Jihvendriya and so on. And then even Vedas cannot explain it. Why? Because Vedas themselves tell you, Vedas here means Upanishads, that should be understood. Because whenever we discuss Vedas in relation to Brahman or Advaita philosophy or the higher metaphysics, the Veda should be understood essentially as Upanishads, not the Karmakanda or Brahmana, Samhita or Aranya. So Shabdopi, Veda means even Vedic literature cannot fully understand the absolute reality, cannot define it. So Veda Shastram, that's why Shankaracharya says in the Bhashya, Mandukya Bhashya says, see, Shastram tu Ajnana Nivartakam, not Jnana Pravartakam. Shastram is like light. What's the role of light? As I said this morning, if there's a piece of rope here lying in front of you, and if there is not enough light, you bring a light from outside. What's the role of light? And when the light is brought, immediately you realize it is not a snake or anything, it's a piece of rope. Now, can you say that is the light that revealed the rope? You cannot say. The light removed, drove away darkness. And when darkness was removed, the obstacle that stood in your way of realizing that it is a piece of rope also vanished. The light did not produce rope. Light even doesn't reveal rope. What did the light do? It removed darkness. So that's why darkness means ajnana. So Shastram to ajnana nivartakam. Shastram or Vedas removes all superimpositions. And then what is left is the real knowledge, the reality. So that's why this Nishedha Mukha Shastram it is called in Vedanta. Nishedha Mukha Shastram. Na anta prakyam, na bhishprakyam, na ubhayada prakyam, na prakyam, na prakyam, like that in the Mandukya Upanishad there is the seventh mantra is the famous mantra. It is not what is realized in the dream state, deep sleep state or waking state, etc. And ultimately all vikalpas or superimpositions are negated. Then you come to a point where there is nothing more left than other than your own self, which cannot be negated. Because the negator is able to negate because there is Atman within. So even Vedas can ultimately try to explain, cannot fully explain, can make an effort to explain the reality only through a process of neti or the process of negation. That's the idea behind. So that's why it is said arthokta yadrude na nishedha siddhi. So all that the Vedas tell you is the reality is beyond us. Yat vacha anabhyuditam yena vak abhyudide. All these mantras are there in so many Vedic Upanishadic literature. Makes the point clear that the absolute reality Brahman is beyond all pramanas. Veda or Shabda Pramana is one of the pramanas. Vedanta accepts 6 pramanas: Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Shabda, Arthabhakti and Anubalakti. So even Shabda Pramana or Vedas cannot explain, because what can be explained, what can be verbalized, what can be defined, what can be explained or described will be limited. When you define something, you are creating a barrier. You are limiting something within the framework of words. That's what is meant by definition. So what is defined is limited. And Brahman is the unlimited reality, the absolute reality. And there is only one language which can explain Brahman, and that is the language of silence. Silence is the only language in which the absolute reality can be explained. And that is the view of Vaishnavas also, Bhakti traditions also. They will say the Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu, Narayana or Vasudeva, according to Madhva tradition or Ramanuja tradition. No, they believe that all Disabda Pramanas, everything, they are all below the absolute reality. The Lord Krishna, Lord Narayana, Vasudeva is beyond all these words, Vedas, everything. Vedas derive their authenticity, their pramanam only from God. That's the idea behind. Because what is defined or explained in the Vedas or by the Vedas is limited or restricted. Because Veda, if you say some Vedas explain the absolute reality, it says like see Veda is verbalizing, trying to give a verbal definition. It's called Pancha Shabda Pravati Nimittani it is called. 5 conditions for explaining anything in words. We can explain something in relation to something else. See, it's called Dravya, Jadi, Guna, Kriya, etc. If you say, if we're talking, what is sun? Nobody need to ask. Well, you can say sun is obvious. It is Pratyaksha Siddha. Everyone knows. Morning. So you can say it is like sun. Everyone understands. And then you want to explain somebody else. Who is he? You may say, oh, he is. So sun is like Dravya Pratyaksha Siddha. If you say, who is X? X is a driver or is a professor. So you are explaining him in relation to what he does, driving or teaching or whatever may be. So it's Karya, Kriya, in relation to some Kriya, some work he does. Who is he? He is my uncle or something like that you can say. Your sambandha relationship explain. What is that object? Oh, it is a bright picture or red pot, something like that you say. Your property, guna, is associated with something. Like that, there are some conditions for verbalization, for explaining something, for defining or describing something. Brahman cannot be described or explained in relation to any of these relationships. That's the idea behind. Now, this explanation continues. So, we are going to a much more empirical subject now. Coming down, we are discussing Karma Yoga, the 6th question. That comes in the 41st verse of 3rd chapter, where the king is asking for a detailed exposition of the philosophy of Karma Yoga, which helps you to get freedom from the shackles of worldly bondage. The answer is given as disinterested action, unselfish action. So, Karma Yogam vadada na purusho yena samskritaka vidhuye hashu karmani naishkarmyam vindade param. This is a question. So, here the Rishi, the Navayogi who answers this question is Avirhotra, 6th one. Here Avirhotra gives a detailed exposition of the philosophy of Karma Yoga, and then he makes a few points very clear. See, karma has its limitations. Every karma has its limitation. Karma, even the best of good karmas can have a binding effect. Even good punya karmas or meritorious deeds that you perform in this world can help you to go to heaven. But that is also relative. The moment your meritorious deeds are completely exhausted, it's time for you to leave heaven and come back and be born again as human beings. So again you continue in this wheel of samsara. Means life, birth, action, death, rebirth, action, again death, like that it continues. So the only way to come out of this rotating wheel of karma is the path of disinterested action. Because every action that is done with some definite goal attaches you to this world. Every action. If the result of the action is a happy one, then you will have a tendency to do that even if it is not necessary. It is raga, means attachment. And if that action brings about unhappy results, then even it is your duty and responsibility, you had an attitude of dvesha, aversion towards that action, to avoid it. And raga and dvesha both have the same binding effects. It binds us to this world. It's like shackles. Every action with a definite motive and selfish desire is like a chain that binds you to this world. And every disinterested action is an effort to break this chain and set you free. So every selfish action binds you to this world. Every unselfish action helps you to come out of this bondage. That's why in Vedantic tradition, even good meritorious deeds, but if done with selfish desire, will have a binding effect, because it helps you to go to heaven or enjoy good things. But again, when your good karmas are exhausted, you have to return to this world and again continue this game of life. And you are not very sure that you will go to heaven again. So there is always the uncertainty about it. Therefore, this says, Avirhotra says, disinterested action. Do all good things, but do without any selfish desire. Should not be indifferent. In the Gita it says, Saktaha karmani avidvamso yatha kurvanti bharata kuryat vidvan tatha asaktaha chigishuhu lokasantikam. There is a very wonderful reconciliation between the problem of disinterested action and total indifference or complacency or negligence. Very often people ask this question, how can you ever engage in disinterested action and still be effective and efficient in your work? Without a definite goal, how can you do sincere work? The answer is this: since actions with selfish desires and attachment create problems like anxiety, neurosis, depression, melancholia, and a number of schizophrenic problems, the only way out of this crisis is to engage in good action but without selfish motive. So the sloka, as I quoted, says, Saktaha karmani avidvamso yatha kurvanti bharata kuryat vidvan tatha asaktaha chigishugu lokasangraham. On the one hand, you have got people who are extremely attached, full of selfish desires, definite motive. They want to do good things. And they are very efficient, they are very workaholic, they do things with great enthusiasm. But they are extremely attached to the selfish goals they have in mind. On the other hand, there is another set of people. They are equally efficient, equally effective in their work, but they are completely non-attached. Now, Sri Krishna says, those who do work efficiently with a strong sense of non-attachment, they are vidwan, they are people with wisdom, endowed with spiritual wisdom. And those who do everything with a strong selfish motive because of their attachment, they are avidwan, they are people devoid of spiritual wisdom. That's the idea behind. So anyway, karma cannot be avoided, and karma brings its own problems. Therefore, better do the karma. You cannot run away from it. So do it in a disinterested manner. So Avirhotra here says, karma akarma vikarmedi vedavado nalaukikaha vedasya cha ishwaratmatva tatra muhyanti sureha. He gives a general statement here. Veda, according to Vedic literature, karma kanda, there are three types: karma, akarma and vikarma. Karma means doing work with some selfish motive. Akarma means lethargy, inaction. Vikarma means viparita karma, doing the wrong things. So there is a lot of confusion and misunderstanding with regard to what karmas are. Doing those duties, those works which are sanctioned in the Vedic literature, it is called karma. And not doing any of those things, any of those sanctioned duties and responsibilities which are prescribed in the Vedic literature is called akarma, total inaction, and doing those deeds which are censured in the Vedic literature, it is called vikarma. Now, of course, we don't have time to go through this very elaborately, but one point to be made clear is, in Vedas there are many statements where different rituals are prescribed for the practitioners of karma, and very often great results, great exotic results are also mentioned to tempt people to move away from a state of total inaction and to do their duty, because it is better to do the karma at least in a with some selfish motive than complete lethargy, than completely avoiding any action, than running away from the field of our duties and responsibilities, or doing actions which are prohibited in Vedic literature. So these are the three states you have to remember. Karma, which implies performance of duties and responsibilities prescribed in the Vedic literature. Akarma means non-performance of these duties and responsibilities. Vikarma means performance of prohibited actions mentioned in the Vedas. Now, if you do not do some kind of work, and if you sit quiet somewhere, then also you are doing work. Physically you may be inactive, but mentally you will be hyperactive. Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyatha nimudhatma mithyachara. So the Gita says, if you sit quiet in an armchair without doing anything, but then we are always thinking, busy, speculating about what wonderful things I could have achieved if I could do something. That is hypocrisy according to Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna called mithyachara, means hypocrite. Now what will such people do? Such people will naturally be doing certain prohibited actions, because indriyas and mind cannot remain inactive. If indriyas, if the senses of action are inactive, mind will be hyperactive. And mental action is also action, means viparita karma. So if we are not doing karma, we are very likely we are very likely to indulge in Vikarma, Viparita Karma, prohibited actions. So therefore, do those karmas, those duties and responsibilities. If we cannot do it without any selfish motive, do it with attachment, because that will take you to the next stage of doing the same duty, doing the same work without attachment. Lethargy and performance of prohibited action should be always avoided. Now here, one point that is stressed here is, Avihotra says, in many of these rituals, certain results are mentioned. If you do this karma, you will go to heaven. If you do one particular kind of ritual, then you will have this good result. So there is a lot of temptation, lot of incentive. From a very empirical point of view, in an empirical sense, lot of incentive. So should we do all these things expecting these selfish results, these worldly results? Avihotra says no. These results are mentioned in the Vedic literature to save you from a tendency to remain idle, to save you from a tendency to completely avoid any action, or to prevent you from indulging in prohibited action. So what is the purpose of these incentives? You find many of the Vedic yajnas and yagas, they are not very common these days, but the results are mentioned in this literature. You go to heaven, putrakameshti, if you go, so many Ashwamedha, and so many different types of ishtis, yagas, yajnas are mentioned in the Vedic literature. Now, Avihotra says, and in a general way it applies to our times also. Today perhaps yajnas and yagas are very rare, but in other fields of our activity also, it's better to do some good things. If you cannot do it without any selfish motive, better do it with selfish motive. That's better than doing nothing or doing the wrong thing. Some people say, no, I won't do any good because we should do it without a selfish motive. So that person is very likely to indulge in bad actions. So there's always a lot of scope for hypocrisy in many of these ideas, self-deception. So it's better to give up lethargy and do some noble, to engage in some noble deeds for our own good and for the good of others. If we cannot do these things with complete unselfishness, if you think you can do it only with a definite selfish motive, that's better. Because the next alternative is you may do nothing, but you cannot remain idle. Physically we may remain idle, mentally we will be indulging in dreams, expectations, speculations, which also amounts to action. And those actions may not be desirable actions. Most probably they could be prohibited actions. So it's better to engage in some positive actions with perfect identification. And if it is possible only with a selfish motive, go ahead. Because at the next stage of your spiritual evolution, you may graduate to that particular stage of continuing the same duties and responsibilities without any selfish motive. That's why Ramanuja in his Bhashya says, according to Vaishnavi tradition, Sri Vaishnavi tradition, Gita Bhashya. So, Ato Jignasu Artharthi Jnanija Bharadashava, Udara Sarvaya Vaidi, etc. Sloka is there. Shankaracharya Udaraha Utkrishta Chittaha. Ramanuja says that if you cannot pray to God without any selfish desire, selfish motive, better pray to God for your health, for something good that's necessary for you. Because if that prayer is sincere and if your prayers are answered out of a sense of gratitude to God who has fulfilled your selfish desire, you may start praying to Him without any selfish motive. So you will graduate the next stage of spiritual evolution from prayer with selfish motive to prayer without selfish motive. But if you, on the other hand, if any of us decide, well, I shall pray only without selfish motive. Right now I cannot do that, so better keep quiet. That person will never do anything in his life. So we have to start from where we stand right now. So it's better to do some good things for our good and also for the good of others with great concentration, dynamism and energy. That will take us to the next stage of spiritual evolution. Because Vedanta gives scope for everyone. There is a place for everyone belonging to all levels of spiritual growth. So now we will continue later. We will have interaction for about half an hour. Last time, this morning, we could not, we didn't have interaction. So this time, we have half an hour, we can ask questions. Okay. Okay, please. I will come back to you. Go.
Maya being relative, in terms of time, I can see the whole world, nature, everything is Maya. But within the time frame in which we live, it's like absolutely, there's no depth changing. So what is that, knowing that Maya is relative, how does it impact our daily life?
Yes, now, once, see, in fact, the impact is more or less on our ethical and spiritual life. See, very often people indulge in undesirable activities because they consider those activities will bring them results which are everlasting. There is a psychological point behind it. Every educated person knows that the world is subject to change. Money, wealth, all the empirical pleasures are subject to change, can never be everlasting. But when they indulge in activities, when often they go out of the way to acquire these physical pleasures, empirical pleasures, objects of enjoyment, for a moment they forget that these objects cannot bring everlasting happiness. So this philosophical knowledge can have a great psychological effect. It acts as a restraining element. Because, well, beyond the limits, money cannot bring eternal happiness. That will have a restraining effect on the activities, tendencies of human beings. So a philosophical approach. This was what exactly Plato meant by the ideal of philosophical king. You find in the Gita also. Plato said, a king should become a philosopher. He said, it may be difficult for a philosopher to be a king because philosopher in those days did not have a good prestige in Greek society, Athenian society. So he said, a king should have a philosophical approach. That will help him to become a more effective, more humane administrator. And in Gita, I explained this morning Rajarshi, that ideal of Rajarshi, the 4th chapter. Imam vivasude yogam proktavan ahamavayam vivaswan manave praha manuhu ikshakavya prabhi evam parampara pratam imam Rajarshyo viduhu sakalena iha mahada yogo nashta parandava. Now Rajarshaya is defined by Shankaracharya as Rajanascha Rishayascha Rajarshaya. Means kings and sages put together. Kingly without and sagely within. Now, a great commentator, Tikakara, Shankarananda Saraswati says, Rajittum Aishwarya Sambatti, Rishittum Tasyaha Sukshmaptha Darshana Kshamattum. Now, Rajittum, the state of a king, implies wealth, power, influence, efficiency, and so on. Rishitva means the calm, contemplative attitude of a sage or a sage, who understands the limitation of empirical qualities, rajatva, mean efficiency, wealth, etc. So the contemplative attitude of a saint joined to the dynamism of a king is Rajarshi, philosopher of India. This is the idea behind. So Rishitvam restrains you. Rajatvam enables you to live a meaningful, effective life in this world. That's the idea. You want.
Yes. Swamiji, you mentioned from the Gita that wherever we live, what point we do spiritual work stays at that point, and in the next life we continue from that point. So I have another question. I'm trying to put another thing along with that thing, is that also with the concept of if you do good work,
doing good to the world.
Sorry?
The concept of?
Another concept is that if you do good work, then you get rewarded in heaven, then you stay in heaven until that good work is depleted, then you come back. So if my bank balance remains the same, and I am supposed to start wherever I'm supposed left it off, but I'm also being rewarded because of good work, and then I am depleting that good work and coming back.
Oh yes.
How these two?
No, actually, that's true. No, if you had done a lot of good meritorious deeds, maybe with selfish desire, selfish motive, you will actually go to heaven, and when the meritorious deeds are exhausted, you will be born back again. That's the idea. So your account will be empty. But your account of tendencies and impressions will not be empty. The old tendencies of having done good deeds will remain intact. Results will be exhausted, but tendencies, vasanas and vrittis related to the good meritorious deeds you have done will remain. The example he explained, it's a very subtle question, and people do ask such questions now. Now we have done, suppose you have done a lot of good things with your hand in the previous life. Your body was perhaps cremated or whatever in previous life. And you have gone to heaven, now you are again born. Now, but but the tendencies and impressions that you have accumulated during a previous life, doing a lot of good things, those tendencies and impressions remain intact. It is called Anusruta Swabhava. I already explained this morning. Anusruta Swabhava means like a flow. Sarit means flowing body of water. So these tendencies and impressions flow from life to life. So they remain intact. What you have done with your senses of perception or senses of action remain only in their residual form. Old karmendriyas, jnanendriyas have gone, but the tendencies that you acquired through actions using the jnanendriyas and karmendriyas of previous life remain intact. In fact, they constitute an important element of Sukshma Shariram. It's called Puryashtakam. Puryashtakam is a huge vehicle through which Atma travels from life to life. See, Pancha Jnanendriyani, Pancha Karmendriyani, Pancha Mahabhutani, Pancha Pranas, 4. Then Antakarana, Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara, which stock this huge accumulated vast body of tendencies and impressions. So 5. Avidya, Kama and Karma. Avidya. This transmigration takes place because you are not aware of your true nature. So you have a lot of desire, and that prompts you to action. So avidya, kama and karma. So these 8 units put together is called Puryashtakam, of which Sukshma Sharira is the essence. So they continue from body to body. Your indriyas, nobody will believe that your hands belonging to a previous life. No, they have perished. But the impressions that you have gathered through actions with your hands in previous life, the impressions which are accumulated in the mind, chitta, they continue. That's why very often we have tendency to do certain things in a certain manner. So very often when you identify yourself with a place or a language or a culture, actually from a philosophical point of view it is absolute stupidity. Because in which country we were born in previous life, which culture to which culture we belonged, what language we spoke. So even that makes you universal in outlook, really speaking. So I tell you one example. When Holy Mother was visiting Sarnath, Benares, some disciples, story is narrated somewhere. So some disciples found some Western Orientalists maybe. They were closely observing the huge Buddhist monasteries, pillars, ruined Buddhist pagodas, temples and so on. And they said, Mother, these Westerners, Germans, Orientalists, Americans, British, they are staring at these things. Then Mother said, they were the people who built all these things in previous life. Now they are reborn again observing these things. Because highly evolved spiritual personalities have the ability to look beyond time. The past, present and future appear to be single dimensional for them. For us the past is hidden, future also is hidden, and present is only tiny iceberg that is seen above the water level. This huge body of iceberg, maybe 99%, that's hidden below the water level. That spiritually evolved persons can see. So that's why this Puriyastakam accumulates and registers and keeps intact these tendencies and impressions and vasanas, which prompt you to behave, act and do certain things in a given manner, even if you try. There are many people, they take a strong decision. I have not told a single truth so far. Tomorrow I am going to tell the truth. When they tell that, it will be a lie. And there are people who, on the other hand, they with a lot of effort, well, I am going to tell a lie. They cannot do that. Because the Anusada Swabhava, these accumulated tendencies and impressions prompt them, force them to behave in a particular manner. Can't help it. So that's what Swamiji meant. We are good because we can't help being good. We are bad because we can't help being bad. That's why when we remember things with name and form vividly, it comes from experiences related to this life. And when we have abstract ideas devoid of nama and rupa, vague abstract ideas, they belong to previous life experiences. The Puriyastakam stores up all this, especially Chittam, because Antakarana is the fifth of the Puriyastakam, as I mentioned. Of Antakarana, the Chittam is that particular compartment where all these tendencies, impressions and vasanas are accumulated, which prompts you to behave in a particular manner, which makes your mind think in a particular way, and which prompts your pancha jnanendriyas and karmendriyas to move in a particular direction. You can't help it. That's the idea behind. So now we'll continue tomorrow. I think 15 minutes more?
15 minutes more.
Oh yes, okay. I was, this morning also there was a little confusion of the time. Please.
Swamiji, during spiritual sadhana, japa and other margas that we go through, what happens to the vasanas and tendencies in Sukshma Sharira, the process, is that the process of transformation? What exactly happens to the vasanas?
No, the Chittam will accumulate both positive and negative tendencies, vasanas and impressions. There will be often conflict. That's why sometimes, people who start spiritual life, some of them start coming to temples and Vedanta societies and doing good things. Suddenly they drop out. Again they need a few more knocks, blows in their life. Again they will come back again. We have found it in many cases. So because there is a lot of conflict, negative tendencies drag them away. But then when they get blows, positive tendencies make them turn in this direction. Otherwise they could go elsewhere. People turn to so many things in search of peace of mind. I need not give all the details here. But very often they knock at the wrong doors. But they often knock at the right door. They go in search of spiritual ideas because of the force and influence of positive tendencies. See, there is often conflict. Not only that, when you start spiritual life, these conflicts become much more obvious. It's like a lake, mind is often compared to a lake. Different layers of impressions. On the surface, you have got, say, if the lake has got 100 feet of water, maybe on the surface 10 feet of pure water, 90 feet, different layers of weeds, dust, and so on. If you start spiritual life, it's like taking a big stick and trying to steer it. So we are trying to clean it up. And it's impossible for you to clean the lake of mind without steering, without meditation. Meditation is like steering. Meditation, scriptural reading, japa, all these are like steering the deep lake of human mind with a long pole. So that's why when you start meditating, immediately terrifying thoughts and images and impressions suddenly come to the surface. You find the life of Jesus Christ, 40 days of temptation, the life of Buddha, such a long period of temptation by Mara, and you find these are all anthropomorphization of this phenomenon. So obstacles in spiritual life. So what happens when you start spiritual life? You are steering this lake, but without steering you cannot clean it up. So different layers of accumulated things are there. But through constant process, we can slowly clean up. When these impressions come, you dissociate yourself. You make a decision not to identify with those thought currents. Then they come and vanish. That's the idea. So they do come, there will be conflicts, but we have to dissociate ourselves with a strong attitude of detachment. Then they come and positive tendencies become stronger and stronger. And that helps us to move forward in spiritual life.
But do the negative tendencies still remain out there in potential form, or do they get
Negative tendencies vanish when you stop identifying yourself with them. When you look upon them as a non-participating subject and not as an active participant. If you identify yourself with these negative tendencies, you are lost. They will come when these negative tendencies come. All right, you are coming. All right, you also have a place. You also help me in meditating. You just have a kind of non-identifying attitude. Then they vanish. They become stronger when you continue identifying with them. Non-identification nullifies their strength and their potency to do harm. And as you go on accumulating positive tendencies, they practically vanish. That's the idea. That's why, as I said this morning, the best way is to act as a witness. They call sakshi. Sakshi is sakshitvam is audasinyatvat, bodhritvat sakshitvam. Vedanta Deshi's definition. You should be able to assume an attitude of total non-participation, a witness attitude. Plus, another point, you should be fully aware of their presence. Both will help you to look upon them as a non-participating subject, sakshi. Then these negative tendencies become weaker and weaker, and simultaneously, if we go on accumulating positive tendencies, you can move forward in spiritual life.
So I have a related question. What happens when someone takes mantra
That
Is
gives
that
you
the beginning of something?
that gives you a definite path to follow. And if in direct proportion to your faith, your Shraddha in the ideal that is taught to you in the mantra, that gives you a definite, a well-structured path which will take you to your goal. Otherwise we'll be knocking at different doors, following diverse paths. All of them may not be helpful in reaching our destination. But this gives you a definite path which is sure to take you to your goal. That is
Are you devoted to someone special, or like a person is devoted to someone special for that?
This higher,
or is it not necessary?
the higher things related to mantra diksha and personal spiritual instruction should better be discussed more or less in an independent meeting, not in a public meeting. Generally we don't discuss these things.
No, I was just interested.
Generally speaking, but it gives you a definite, a sure path which takes you to your goal. Otherwise we may be, if we are highly evolved in spiritual life, if you're with a lot of accumulated samskaras accumulated in previous life, perhaps it may help us. Perhaps we may be able to reach our goal without Guru. One example is the Tapovan Maharaj, Chinmayananda's Guru. We have heard of it. He was a he lived in Vasishtha Guha, Uttarakashi, and in the extremely cold, inaccessible places for 30, 40 years without food and all. They are exceptional people. So, but generally, direct instruction gives you a definite path to follow. That's the idea.
Just one question, Shri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, you mentioned just a minute ago, that the actions, unselfish actions, he says that unselfish actions, nirmamo nirankara sa shanti madhikachati. How the unselfish work makes us free from possessiveness and egoism? What is the process?
Yes, selfish action, any selfish action registers an impression in the chitta. You see, I can give an example. Suppose you are walking in the street, and if you see an object lying on the middle of the road, which forces you, which compels your attention, and if you see that object, that impression will remain in your mind. If something happens which you cannot forget, any incident which normally doesn't happen, then that event may register a strong impression in your mind which you are not likely to forget for a long time to come. But when you walk in the street, you may be seeing hundreds of people, vehicles, street lights, and so many things. But you don't take notice of them. But you all see them. But they don't register a strong impression in your mind. So any conscious action will register a strong impression in our mind. Similarly, any action done with a strong desire will naturally leave a mark in our chitta. We can't help it. And its influence works in two ways. I already explained. Raga or dvesha. If the experience is unpleasant, aversion or dvesha. If it is pleasant or happy, then raga or attachment. Now, and in our mind there are hundreds of, maybe thousands of accumulated impulsions, tendencies, which are fighting among themselves, which are mutually in conflict. Okay. Now, if you start looking upon the whole world and your life, your experiences, your interactions with people all around you, with an attitude of non-attachment, then you can keep doing good things, doing your duties and responsibilities, but with an attitude of perfect non-attachment. They will not leave an impression in the mind. Mind will not, chittam will not accumulate impressions, tendencies and vasanas when actions are done without any attachment. It is attachment which transforms action into a residual tendency or vasana, vritti. It is attachment. If actions are performed without any attachment, this transformation will not take place. So chittam will gradually become devoid of vrittis, vasanas, etc. And at a particular point, mind or chittam becomes completely free from all tendencies, impressions. Then it becomes a fit vehicle for studying spiritual ideas, practicing spirituality. Because that's why Sri Ramakrishna says, if a small child or an innocent person, guileless person, is like an empty slate, so if it takes to spiritual life, the spiritual life, spiritual ideal creates a strong impression in the chitta. It's like a mirror which is clean. The reflection is pure, clean. Otherwise, and a mind which has got a vast collection of accumulated desires and impressions and vrittis is like a mirror with a thick, clouded, dusty face which cannot take any reflection. So it's better to keep our mind free from tendencies and impressions so that it can be it can act as a mirror which reflects Atman in its full-time effulgence. That's the idea behind. Yes. No, I think we have reached time. Tomorrow we can continue.
I was just making a 1-minute comment. That somebody asked Gandhiji on Anashakti Yoga, that are you attached to the goal of independence? He said, no, I am not attached to the goal of independence. I do it because it is my duty to fight for independence.
Yes.
So somebody said, but then how can it be explained? He said, if I am attached to the goal, then I will veer from my path of dharma. I may do things which I am not supposed to do to attain the goal.
Yes. Gandhi was supposed to be a role model of karma yogi.
Yes.
Because once C.F. Andrews asked him, Gandhi, why don't you go on a vacation? Because he was working 20 hours of the day. You are working so hard without much sleep. Then Gandhi, who is working? Gandhi put a counter question. It is recorded in C.F. Andrews' memoirs. So Gandhi was supposed to be a role model of the Vikarma yogi. Okay. Okay.
That incident of Indra, Vashishta, the curse, counter curse, just 2 minutes.
Indra.
Vashishta had gone to Indra to do the yajna. And then he came back. Then he did not wait. He had sages come in and do the yajna. Then they had cursing each other. Why did that counter curse? What is Viveka?
Vasishta's counter curse?
Yeah. Nimi curses.
Nimi?
Yeah, King Nimi curses Vashishta. Both become Vivekas. What is the meaning?
Mythological stories, Mythological stories. Yes. No, mythological stories need not be taken very seriously. But the point is this, very often these great saints and sages also sometimes behave like normal human beings. But it doesn't mean that they were just ordinary human beings driven by impulses or tensions. But you find such stories. You have got 36 Puranas, 18 Mahapuranas, 18 Yuga Puranas. So there are thousands of such tales and stories and legends. But you can find such stories, There are stories where Krishna and Shiva fought together and Vishnu. Such stories are there. So we are more concerned with spiritual ideas and stories which have got a spiritual message. Otherwise, no, mythological story is like a vast forest. You can easily get lost. So there are many such stories. Okay, thank you. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Dear devotees, friends, it's a wonderful day you have passed. I was wondering how much interest you must be having in listening to this type of words. The whole day long sitting in the iron chair and with so much of difficulties, you was listening, and then that you have listened, it's proved from your questions. You were asking those questions from that, what you have heard, that's really very good. In our Upanishad also, they say the prayer is Bhadram Karnevi Sridvam Deva Bhadram Pashe Maksha Virijayatra. The prayer that please give me this blessing so that I can hear some good words, I can see good things. So I don't need anything else. So that should be the prayer. Otherwise, and unless and until you are already a bit of advanced soul, it is impossible to continue with the whole day to listen to the spiritual words. So I also congratulate you all for coming over here, and I thank our Swamiji for very nicely, lucidly. We could hear him from all the whole through the building, everywhere. The microphones are there. From here and there, we could listen to him. I think all of you are coming tomorrow again, and tomorrow the last part of the year. And evening he will go to that Demon temple. Thank you very much.